Welcome back to Plant Built Wellness. I am Coach Samara, your host.
Hi there, it's Kristie, the co-host.
And today we are talking about whole food plant based nutrition, one of our most passionate topics to talk about. Kristie and I have both drastically changed our life by adapting into a whole food plant based lifestyle. And today we want to talk about what that is, common myths, and how it's affected us in our journey and also clients. I am a coach. I've been coaching for 14 years with over 1,000 plus clients transformed. So today I'm going to bring in a lot of that, how that's helped all of my clients and myself in my journey. Kristie's going to talk about her wisdom in plant-based nutrition. She's been on her journey for a lot longer than most people.
Thank you. Happy to share.
Yes. All right. So what is whole food plant-based nutrition? That is the question to start off with. Well, so honestly, that is how I got into the what we would call vegan lifestyle. I really do avoid using the V word for the most part because it
Mm,
can have such a stigma behind it. But
yeah.
technically, yes, I am a whole food vegan. And it started off by me dipping into plant-based nutrition, specifically whole food plant-based nutrition. I started learning about it in 2011. And what I started with was things like Dr. Colin T. Campbell, a China study, doctors McGregor, McDougall, and things like Forks Over Knives. That's where I really dove in deep. And what I love about plant-based nutrition, and especially whole food plant-based nutrition, is the ability to heal your body from the inside out. So what
Mm.
that means is we don't eat the ultra processed, the highly processed foods. We stick with whole foods coming straight from the earth, foods that don't have an ingredient list, or minimally processed foods that are whole foods taken and then turned into a form that is more bioavailable, like tofu for protein and stuff.
And no
Right.
animals, right? No
Yeah,
animal
no animal products.
products.
Yes, we stay away from anything inflammatory, anything that can harm our health, our well-being, our energy levels, our vitality.
Yeah.
Kristie and I are so passionate about vitality, longevity. We want to be glowing and sparkling and healthy and vibrant until, the end of our days. And
Yes.
that is honestly, I think Kristie will agree with me on this. That's honestly what captivated me most about whole food plant-based nutrition when I first started learning about it. Right, Kristie?
Yeah, absolutely. And Samara, so you talked about how you were doing a lot of research with some of the great plant-based scientists and researchers.
Right.
Like, and you talked about your family in our introduction episode, but like, what made you kind of look towards plant-based whole food eating? Like, what made you not pick up a book or research online another form of eating, like keto? That keto is
Yeah.
very popular, or even other types of diets.
Right.
What made you go in the plant-based direction?
Oh, that's such a great question. Thank you, Kristie. I'm gonna wanna know your answer to that after mine. But yeah, that is honestly what got me into this is exactly the answer to your question. So I'll go ahead and go dive into that. So I,
Yeah.
I did do a lot of diets in my life. I
Ah.
was one of the biggest dieters. I actually had an eating disorder, I had anorexia.
Oh.
Yeah, I had that after gymnastics and dance in high school, coming out of puberty as an
Yep.
athlete and getting into college, gaining the freshman 15 in college.
Oh
And
boy. All of
yeah,
us.
right, right. I started all those diets. I actually got really heavy into fasting, actually toward the end. So I never did keto or high fat. And I think the reason I didn't do that is because my dad was big on those diets. He did like Atkins and stuff in like the late
Okay.
90s. And then he
Yeah,
got into
yeah.
keto. And keto never sat right with me. Like I think that was an intuitive thing. I was like, this doesn't make sense. Why would I eat a stick of butter? Right. Like
Okay. All right.
that to me, I think part of this helps our viewers might not know this, Kristie, I know you do. So when I was becoming plant-based, when I started my journey, I was actually in the middle of my first two bachelor's degrees in college. And my major was a double major in chemistry and biology with a biochem specialization. I was pre-med, pre-vet at the time. So
Hmm.
thankfully, because of my scientific background in that degree and that what I was going through, I understood a lot about the human body, right? I understood about the
Right.
human body. I understood a lot about chemistry and how molecules interact, how cellular health is affected by things because I was able to view that in the lab in my education, right? So
Hmm.
that's honestly what started getting me nutrition is while I was going through college, I had come off of years of fad dieting, starving myself, calorie deficits. I had just gotten out of therapy for my eating disorder. And
Mm.
I decided, one of the biggest whys for my journey, what Kristie was asking me about just now was why did I decide to go this route in general? And that actually stems back to my why for my fitness journey is unfortunately I was born with a severe disadvantage in life. my mom could not let go of her addictions when she became pregnant with me. So unfortunately, I was toxified in the womb and
Mm,
I was born with a severe autoimmune issue. I was born with severe asthma. And less
okay.
than a month after being born, I was put on life support with respiratory failure.
Right.
And my whole childhood was affected drastically. I couldn't do PE like
Uh,
normally in school. I couldn't run a mile. I had my
right.
inhaler with me at all times.
Mm,
I did end up participating in sports that didn't like really challenge my cardiovascular system. Like I did horseback riding sports, I did sports with my dogs, I did gymnastics and dance and just had my inhaler on hand. But for most of my all of my adolescence, I was at a severe disadvantage and
yeah.
my health was pretty bad. I was born with a compromised immune system
Ugh,
because of that. Yeah, so damaged lungs and compromised immune system. So what this did to me is my whole childhood up until college and even during college, I would get sick constantly. Every time a flu or cold went around, I would get it and I
you
wouldn't get
get
it
it.
like the normal person got it. I would get it and it would take me out.
I'm sure.
And yeah, it was just crazy. Everyone thought I was so weird. Like, why are you always sick? It's like, well, my
Yeah.
body is at a disadvantage. So that really is what dove me into researching nutrition. And
Yeah.
I
For
started by
sure.
cutting out two things I found I was intolerant to. So my dad did some tests and he said, he told me he was intolerant to gluten and dairy. And he's like, you should probably get tested. You probably are too. And I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. And so I went and got tested and it turns out I'm intolerant to gluten and dairy. And this is
Okay.
around the time where I decided I wanted to start improving my health after coming out of an eating disorder. And so I had been doing things like yoga and Pilates at home workouts,
Nice.
consistent. Yeah, I was about 21 and I was getting really consistent with those in my late 20, early year of 21. And so I started to change my diet. I was really bad with my diet. Growing up, I'm sure I was just like the standard American diet when I was outside of my sports and stuff, but in
Of
college, it was really
course.
bad. Yeah, I'm not someone who likes to be in the kitchen. So in
Yep.
college, it was really bad. I was the takeout queen, takeout junk food queen,
Most of us
right?
were. That was college.
So I started by cutting out gluten and dairy, and I started to eat just more whole foods. I didn't even know that's what it was called at the time. I was like, "Oh, I'm just gonna eat less crap, and I'm gonna cut out gluten and dairy." And my
Okay.
goodness, after like just a couple months, I the difference was mind blowing. How I
Mm.
felt, how I looked, like inflammation going away, more energy,
Mm.
clearer mind. I was getting better grades in school. Like it was crazy.
Wow.
Combining that with my home workouts, I started adding in more protein just because
Sure.
that was, something that I had heard, and I actually chose plant-based protein right off the bat.
I
I've
was gonna
never.
ask you, like,
Yeah,
how did you decide, like, the protein route? And, like, can
yeah,
I ask you also, like,
yeah,
the types of plant-based protein that are beneficial?
right,
There's some that are not as favorable or as have as much nutritional value. So I wanted to
true.
get your thoughts there. Not to
Yeah.
cut you off on
No,
your journey.
yeah,
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 yeah.
my journey's long, I'm sure I'll go over all of it eventually.
We'll hear
Uh
more of it, I'm sure.
Let's start there. Yeah. So in the beginning, I hadn't done much research on plant-based nutrition. I didn't even know that term. That term wasn't even in my head. It was cut out
Okay.
dairy, cut out gluten, start eating healthier.
Right.
However,
Yeah, yeah.
when I started getting into this and started looking up healthier recipes online and stuff like that, and I was looking up dairy-free recipes online, and this is before social media. I think the only thing I had access to,
Right.
I mean, social media was there, but it wasn't like it is now, right?
No,
So I think the
sure.
thing that I was on the most was Twitter. But the thing
Okay.
is, I was looking up recipes that were dairy-free and gluten-free, and I was
Sure.
also sharing those. And it turns out when you look up those recipes, you tend to just get plant-based options, right? Because when people cut
Yeah.
out dairy and gluten, it just puts you. So I don't know if it's my internet browser just decided to put me in that group. So I was getting a lot of vegan options, vegetarian options, plant-based
Yeah.
options. I
Yeah.
wasn't really paying attention to those titles at the time, right? I was just like, this is
Sure.
dairy free. I can have this. I definitely was incorporating more fruits and vegetables because that's something I just inherently knew that I needed more of, right?
Okay.
Um, and so that's yeah, and so when I chose a protein powder, I knew I didn't want whey because dairy intolerance, right? So
Sure.
that's what got me into plant-based protein powder, and at the time, Christy, I'll tell you, this was 2011, there was not much out there. I think Vega was the
No.
one that was well known online, right?
Yeah.
Because of Robert Cheek, the, like, OG vegan bodybuilder, right? So I remember
Okay. Yeah,
Vega
yeah.
yeah, I remember Vega, I think I saw someone posting a recipe on Twitter with it, so I started using that, and I stuck with that for many, many years until I
Okay, so you
found
started with, like, the protein powder. Was that, like, the first kind of, like,
that was
way
the first
into?
plant-based product, I would say, that
Okay,
other
okay,
than
got
fruits
it.
and vegetables, right? Other than eating more
Okay.
fruits and vegetables. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
what I had been doing was because I couldn't when you're gluten and dairy intolerant, it's really hard to get takeout, especially back
Oh,
then.
yeah.
It
Oh,
wasn't
yeah.
like gluten-free was becoming a thing, but it wasn't a big thing, right? And
No, no,
dairy-free was not a thing at all. So,
no,
like, back
no.
then, like, I went from eating all takeout to then, like, "Oh, what can I eat? I can't now that I can't eat gluten and dairy,
Yeah.
I can't eat takeout because I
Right.
can't control
Right.
what's in there," right? So
Exactly.
and I'm not,
Hidden ingredients.
right? And the thing is, I will be 100% honest with you guys at all times, and my clients do not believe me when I say this because I design recipes for them every week, but I hate being in the kitchen. I am not a kitchen person. I really do.
I hate this meal planning
Ah,
stinks, but it's
yes.
so important.
Right. Meal prepping is key. I'm really lucky. My husband right now, he loves being in the kitchen, the husband I'm married to. So like our whole relationship,
Amazing.
he's been the cook of the house. And ironically,
Amazing.
the guy I was dating when this was all happening in my early 20s was also a person who liked to cook. So the problem is he wouldn't do plant-based. But this did drive me into the kitchen. And of course, when you don't like being in the kitchen, you want it simple.
Oh,
I wasn't into the cooking,
100%
right?
simple,
So
simple.
it drove me into, like, things like salads and
Mm.
bowls and smoothies. I've always been a smoothie.
Balls,
Yeah!
smoothies. The
I've always been a
best, the
smoothie
best.
girl, and that's how I incorporated the protein powder with smoothies, 'cause I
There you go.
to this day, I hate protein powder. I
Okay, okay. I don't know
rarely
if I knew that about you, but yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
I mean, I like the brand I have now is amazing. I use veg now, and I love it.
Yeah,
If you
yeah.
guys
Veg is
linking
great.
code in my
Yeah.
bio, if you guys want a discount, veg linking code in my bio. And I love veg, and I can actually have veg in a shaker bottle with plant-based milk by itself. The
Okay.
only brand of protein
The
I can
only
drink
brand
by
you'll
itself.
do that
Yeah.
with.
But
Okay,
back
okay.
when I was using Vega, it wasn't bad, but it was definitely gritty and thick, and I'm a
It
texture
was
person.
different.
And
Oh, yeah, yeah.
you're
You
not
are.
used to
You are.
you're not used to protein powders in general, right? So it's shocking. So
It's different. It's different.
smoothies, and then I baked into things. I remember, oh, fun fact, my one of my first favorite snacks that I ended up using this for, like, years. I bought, one of those mini waffle makers. Have you ever seen those mini waffle makers?
No!
Oh my god. Yeah, I bought one of those because again, I need something quick and easy, and I would mix protein powder, gluten-free flours, and I was not an egg person, so I never really used eggs. And
Okay.
so it was a vegan recipe. I
Oh,
wasn't going for a vegan recipe, but it was a vegan
but it
recipe.
happened to be. Good,
It
good.
happened to
Bonus,
be, right?
bonus. Yeah, yeah.
And so I would put that, make these little protein waffles, and I'd make big bags of them.
Get
Put
out.
I kid you not, I'd put some in the freezer, and then I'd put some in little baggies, and I would take it to class with me for snacks.
Wait. So what's in it again? So you've got the protein powder. Wait, what do you have
Protein
in there?
powder protein powder, whatever gluten-free flour I had on hand. I think it was probably almond flour at the time. Back then,
Okay.
remember, gluten-free was, like, new, so, like, oat flour
Yeah.
wasn't a thing.
Right.
I think there was almond I think I tried a couple different recipes. I think I did almond flour, chickpea
Okay.
flour, I might have done coconut flour, one of those. It was one of
One.
those.
So it was like one of those.
Yeah,
Okay.
and
And
then
then what else?
there was a flax egg because I don't like eggs. I did learn what a flax egg was, which is where you mix ground flaxseed and water to create the egg consistency. There was also a recipe where it was just a smashed banana, replacement for an egg. You've seen
Super
that.
easy. Okay. So wait.
It was like 5 ingredients like that. Yeah.
Okay. And
So
then your
mix it in
protein
a
powder.
bowl.
Like what kind of like what flavor of protein powder?
Girl,
Like
I did what I
vanilla?
had yeah, I had all of them honestly. I would try different
But
ones. I
like
was
you would use the different ones in the waffle.
Yeah, yeah, so I would have a
Okay.
couple on hand. So because Vega was the brand I was using, I was
Oh,
because I didn't
yeah,
like
yeah.
protein powder, I was trying different flavors all the time. I made these waffles like this for, like, a year
But
and a
that's
half, so I'm
awesome.
sure
Okay, I did
yeah.
not know this about you. This is great. I'm learning something new.
So,
Sure.
I would bring my bags of little protein waffles,
Of
and then
course.
I was big on fruit at the time. And so, like, I think a lot of this, at this time, I wasn't researching plant-based. That term was still not even in my head.
Yeah, yeah.
I had seen the term vegan or vegetarian because so many recipes had it on there and the gluten-free recipes usually had it. So
Yep.
I was just getting these recipes. They were like on my Twitter recommendation, Google recommended them because I'd been searching them, right? So I
Yes.
was leaning
Yes.
that way. If my boyfriend at the time, made chicken for dinner, I might have still eaten it. But I was trying to not eat with him and not eat with other people because I knew it wasn't healthy and I knew I couldn't guarantee the no dairy, no gluten, right?
Oh,
This was like a first year of me getting healthier, going
great.
toward right before 2012, which is when I went fully
Mhm.
plant based. That's when I
Mm.
started diving into, like, I think it was the process of forcing myself in the kitchen. I'm a nerd, Kristie, so I always look up things. So as I was experiencing all these benefits to the nutrition, I need to learn more about why I'm experiencing what's making my
Yeah.
skin clear up and my acne
Yeah.
go away,
Of
what's
course.
making my hair grow faster, what's making me have more energy, right? Me being the geek I am, started researching. I started getting on Google. Again, social media was not that big, so I was on Google and I had access to the collegiate journal database at school in college because I was a
Right.
biochem major. So the scientific journal database where all of the published studies that are like respected and been
Yeah,
peer
yeah.
reviewed.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure.
So I had already learned how to like filter through BS studies and all of that. That was a benefit of my degree. So I remember I would spend some time after classes in the biology lab and on the
Okay.
computer. And I was just sitting there researching studies, like nutrition studies. And I was learning about things. And that's how I started learning about the inflammation that dairy caused and how processed gluten.
Wow.
Yeah, so I started diving into it. And then that next year, what really dove me in is again, all these benefits were happening. I was slowly learning about nutrition. I got into heavy fasting. I could probably spend so much time talking about it. I'm not going to,
Oh,
but I
yes.
did get into heavy fasting. So I started doing like 3 day, 5 day, 7 day water fast. And
Holy cow. How
yeah,
did that feel?
amazing, actually. I don't recommend it now because now I know what it does to my metabolism,
Okay, I
especially
was
as
gonna
as a
ask
woman
you, like,
and
I
my
know you don't
hormones.
do it
Yeah.
now, so why did you
No, I would
stop?
never
Okay.
recommend it now. Back
Okay.
when you're in your early 20s, you can get away with a lot of stuff you can't get away with now.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
no,
yeah.
if I do it now, it would destroy my metabolism. It did slow down my metabolism, but it would destroy my metabolism more. And worse, right now, after 30, it would mess with my hormones. So I don't recommend fasting for women after 30. Even men, be careful with it. But back then, I was doing it for a different reason. It wasn't for weight loss, it wasn't for weight management. It was actually to heal. I was looking for anything to heal my lungs and my immune system. And I had
Okay.
noticed by eating healthier that my asthma was getting a little bit better here and there. Like I
Yeah,
was using my inhaler
sure.
less. I was able to get
Right,
through my home workouts without feeling
right.
like I was dying. If these little changes in my diet make this bigger difference, something inside of me, I'm a dreamer. I'm that kind of person where I'm like, if something is remotely possible, I'm going to make it happen.
Okay.
So
Right, right.
in my whole childhood, I was told by my doctors and my parents, like, you have asthma, you have damaged lungs, you have a damaged immune system. It's just your genetics. You can't change it. And the
Mm,
same thing, one of the
mm.
biggest motivators that got me into bodybuilding, into weightlifting, was because my whole adolescence, people told me, you have this genetic body you were given. I'm not blessed with a genetically beautiful body. I have an apple shaped body genetically. It's not attractive
Okay.
where I hold my
Nah,
weight.
it's all
No
good.
curves. Yeah.
No.
So, when people told me my whole childhood, you're just stuck with this body, it made me so frustrated and upset.
Of
What got me into
course.
lifting, and we'll get into that later, was the
Yeah.
fact that I could appreciate my body. I could control I could go against my genetics, right? Of course, me being the rebel I am mentally, when I started to realize that there were ways to heal from the inside out,
Yeah.
the first thought was, can I heal the damage that was done to me in utero? That
Yeah.
was my first thought.
Right.
That's what dove me into fasting because the benefit of fasting when you can do it at young ages like that is it can actually heal you from the inside out.
I wanted to know for the fasting now, like in 30 and above,
Right.
like you started talking about how it can slow your metabolism, right? And like
Yeah.
why it's not good for your hormones. Can
Hormones.
you touch upon a little bit of that? Because I
Yeah.
know we're still in nutrition based, but we're still staying on topic. So
A
I'm not
lot of
trying to
plant-based
diverge.
people fast. So,
Yes, yes, but I mean,
yeah,
I wanna touch upon because there are a lot of doctors, and again, we are not here to go against doctors' orders. We're not physicians. We're
no,
pleased that I will put in my little disclaimer here, but, there are many people who think fasting is good at all ages, so I'm curious to know, like,
it's
why you think
that's so
otherwise, like,
subjective. I mean,
okay,
I don't recommend it for anyone, especially in our day
okay,
and age, because you gotta think so fasting in, like, Gandhi's day and age, I can see that being beneficial. They didn't have the stress levels that we have in our society. They didn't have the malnutrition, like, to the degree that we
mm,
have it. They might
uh,
have had malnutrition calorie-wise, but we have malnutrition actually nutrient-wise, right? Because
yeah,
we're
yeah,
overeating processed foods, all that. So and they also didn't have the hustle culture that we have, right? So, like,
true,
fasting now it's not great in my opinion. I've done all of it, guys. I've done intermittent fasting, short-term fasting. My longest fast, the one that I did with my friend in solidarity,
right.
I did a 35-day water fast. Do I recommend that to anyone? No. But
OMG. Oh my gosh, I'd fall over. There is no way. How old were you again?
I was 21 years old. So I was
Okay.
young. I was young. I wasn't working a full-time job. It was a part-time job. I did it during the
You
summer.
certainly couldn't work out.
No, no, you'd never work
Okay.
out if you're fasting like that.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, you would fall. I
Um
mean, you would fall,
No, I didn't. I was
drop.
not working out at the time. No, it was summertime, so I wasn't in school. So I had a
Got it.
lot of downtime, and I spent a good chunk of that 35 days sleeping.
Oh
So
my
I
goodness.
did it to get the healing from the inside out. There is a process. when you're fasting, where your body eats itself. It
that.
eats a lot of like toxins and stuff. If you have, that's how
Yep.
it can heal cancer, is because it can eat tumors and all of that. So I did it for that reason. I
Wow.
stayed very well hydrated. I rested. I did not exert myself. And then I came out of it correctly. And that's actually the reason why I mentioned fasting in the first place, Kristie, is because while I was fasting, I had already started to research plant based nutrition before my fast. Because when you're researching fasting and stuff, like all the natural holistic stuff comes up, right? I had already been eating dairy free and gluten free, and I already cut out like red meats and stuff. So I did a lot of that slowly as I learned what was healthy, what was not healthy. So
Right.
I started researching plant based nutrition about 2 months before my fast, and my fast was about a month, a couple days long, and that's when I ran into things like a lot of those doctors I said, like Dr. McGoogle, McGregor,
Yeah.
Dr. Colin T. Campbell. During my fast is actually when I watched my first plant based documentary, which was Forks Over Knives, and that really
Mm.
drove it home for me. Forks Over Knives is
Mhm.
what really drove it home for me.
I've
I
seen
also
that. Great.
was
Great
watching
stuff.
documentaries on fasting and on juicing, because you have to juice to come out of a long fast. And a lot of
Okay.
those
Makes sense.
documentaries, yeah, a
Mhm.
lot of those documentaries were plant-based friendly, right? I ended up juicing coming out of my fast, and I ended up adapting immediately after my fast to a not only a whole food plant-based diet, but I was raw. I was a raw vegan.
Ah,
For
that's
the
tough.
first, like, two
That's
and a half
tough.
years being vegan, I was a raw, yeah, because that's when I was
Good for
researching all of
you.
that, I got into that really heavily in that research.
Good
So,
for
the
you.
fasting made me feel clean, made me feel like I reset myself. It definitely helped with my asthma. It didn't cure me 100%, but it helped. Would I recommend it again? No, not now. It did slow down my metabolism. My metabolism was really slow afterward. I had to spend like 4 years rebuilding my metabolism. So this
Oh
is why I
my
don't.
gosh, are you
Yeah,
serious? 4 years rebuilding your
yeah, I
metabolism?
had to, it took me 4 years to
Yikes.
get from, like, and that's when I started lifting too. It took me 4 years to get from eating, like, 1,000 calories a day to going up to, like, a normal amount, like 1,800 to 2,000,
Holy
yeah. So,
cow.
because my metabolism was slow,
And like, how do you even like have the energy to do everything? Like you had to build your energy reserves, right? To
back
be able
up,
to
yeah.
function normally,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, I had to build my
Yeah.
energy back up. I had to build my muscle back because I lost just a
Yes.
little bit of muscle. I didn't have a lot of muscle at the time because that was when I was coming off of fad dieting and all that. So, but
Yes.
it's what it was, and I'm really glad that I quickly got into strength training, because otherwise I probably would not have been able to rebuild the way I did, right?
Right.
But yeah, so to answer your question, fasting does slow down your metabolism, and fasting does mess with your hormones, especially as women over 30. Also,
Mm.
a lot of today's fasting, what I don't like about it, and this is when I ventured into intermittent fasting a little bit later in my journey, and I learned the hard way not to ever do that again, is a lot of people, they fast in the first half of the day. From they wake up, they don't eat until lunch.
Right.
That's actually really bad for you, because your
Mm.
body needs to break its fast in the morning to have that energy to use throughout the day. You actually, if you want to stop eating at any point in the day and have like a window, it should be at night, because your body
Yeah.
doesn't need food to go to sleep. And
Right.
actually, your digestive system is supposed to shut down when you're sleeping so that your liver can detox and everything. So
Exactly.
that,
Because if it
yeah,
doesn't, it's going to raise your heart rate, could raise cortisol levels, and be a nightmare for your sleep pattern. Right.
we'll definitely do a part two on this. But for whole food plant based nutrition,
So,
this is what we're here for. We're gonna have lots of chats on this. So yeah, so for whole food plant based nutrition, that was my journey getting into. That was the very beginning of my journey. I have lots more to tell you all, and I will as we go. But really, what I noticed immediately was just the benefits: skin, hair, energy, mental clarity. In my asthma got a lot better. I had allergies at the time that completely went away. It was just crazy, the kind of things. I used to have acne. I haven't worn makeup in over a decade, and it's because I don't feel like I need to. Ever
because you're
since I went
naturally
vegan,
beautiful.
thank you. But ever since I went vegan, I don't have acne anymore, right? Ever since I went plant based. So,
Right
yeah,
here.
whole food plant based nutrition. What got me into it was the health. Like, people call me a health food vegan, because what got me into plant based nutrition and veganism was for my health. Of course, though,
Oh,
I care about the animals. I've actually
of
been rescuing
course.
animals since I was a teenager. My
You
first
have like 20
horse.
dogs at your house right
Yes.
now. I'm kidding. I'm totally kidding. She's
Well,
not a
yeah,
hoarder of
you're
animals.
close. No, I'm not a hoarder,
She's
but
not a hoarder. I want to make that clear. She's a loving, caring rescue
thank
animal
you.
mama.
I do have a small home sanctuary right now of 8 rescued animals. I've rescued a total of 10 rescued animals my life since I was 15 years old, and I actually am in the process of becoming a nonprofit. I do rescue, I'm not a hoarder, but I rescue. So, the ethical part of veganism was always there for me. Again,
Yes.
I don't like using the V word, but I've been rescuing animals. I've honestly preferred being around animals over people since I was a kid.
And I
I've always cared about animal welfare and in the environment too. That was a big thing that I learned about when I was during my degrees, because I did a lot of ecology and environmental science in my degrees. It all kind of came full circle, but what got me into it was my health, and that's really what makes me the most passionate about whole food plant-based nutrition, is the amount of change that it does to your own health and well-being, physically,
Right.
mentally, spiritually, all of the above. I want to hear
Yeah.
why Kristie got into plant-based nutrition now.
Yeah. So I alluded to during our introduction episode that
Yeah.
my journey with plant based, and actually it started with veganism, and I will use the V word, even though there's some stigma with that. But really, it was about animal advocacy. So I
Love it.
was a vegetarian for many, many years, right out of college. And I had a childhood friend who was a vegetarian since she was 11. And I
Wow.
finally got into being, vegetarian with her. And then one
Awesome.
weekend, when we were in our 40s, she had said to me, I'm going to this event, this hoedown at this farm sanctuary in Northern California, because we're in Southern California, meaning me and my friend. She said, "Hey, do you want to go to this thing?" And I thought, I really don't know what I'm getting into, but I trust you, friends. So, off we went. And so, even though I've been vegetarian, like I really didn't know a lot about animal welfare too much. I didn't know about lobbyists. I didn't know about water waste. I didn't know about the effect on the environment. And there were all these things I did not know. And
Yeah.
most certainly, I was not about to give up any kind of cheese or dairy product because, hello, that was what I lived on a lot.
That was the hardest one, right?
Right? But at the time, so this was back in 2014. We were at this hoedown and they had all this wonderful vegan and plant-based whole food. And I was able to experiment with different things. I'm like, wow. And look
Oh,
at
I
this
love it.
plant-based cream cheese. Delish.
Ooh.
Made out of nuts. So it was really, really wonderful. And was exposed to some not so wonderful films and things that were
Hmm.
important to view, but very, very upsetting. So that
Yeah.
was the start of mine becoming a vegan. Now, in doing so, I didn't really pay attention to the back of the box or a label on a bag
Hmm.
or on a can or whatever. And I thought, well, it's vegan. I'm saving an animal. I'm just going to eat it. Right. And so, no dairy and no animal products. And I was stoked. Right. Because, I was doing
Yeah.
more than just helping animals, but the environment. Right. Doing my
Love
part,
it.
doing my part.
Love it.
But what I was wondering though, initially was why do I not feel better?
Mm.
Why am I not toning, losing weight? What's happening? I feel kind of the same. I thought I was going to feel better.
Right.
Well, did a little more research, reading, going online, and it's like plant based whole eating is really the better option if you want to feel better, if you
Correct.
want to look better subsequently. So I started paying attention to what I would buy at the store, what I would make at home, not just focus on, oh, it's vegan. But I started doing that and I started seeing the change, right? How I was feeling,
Love it.
my acne, how I was sleeping, how I
Yes.
looked. Okay. And I
Yes.
started to see the positive effects of that. So I went from still all about the animals to, hey, I'm doing this also for my health.
Right.
So that's 12, how many years ago is that? That was 2014, but something tells me it was 2013. Anyway, 14 years, somewhere around there, long
There
time.
you go. A little over a
And
decade.
so, yeah. So ever since then, my blood, I get my annual blood work,
Right.
go to my annual women's wellness appointment, and all of my labs were in the green. My protein level, 1 out of 10, would be
Yay.
around 7.5 out of
Oh, I
10
love
being the
it.
best. Miraculous. I was beating my mom, who's a carnivore, on the protein level.
That's
Okay.
amazing.
And I just, it was a win-win for me all the way around. Feeling good, helping the animals, helping me be stronger. I
Right.
am proud to say I have people come up to me to my public gym. I also have a gym shed at home, alternate between the two. And when I'm at the public gym, I often have men and women of all
Oh,
ages
yeah.
come up to me and say, "You look great. I see you in here all the time.
I
Keep
don't doubt
going."
it. I
And they're
don't
like,
doubt it
"Look
at
at that
all.
definition." And
You are
I'm
like the
like,
most jacked person at your gym. I've seen
"Thank
videos of you
you."
at your gym.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, she's seen
You
the
you
videos.
send me you send me your exercise videos and I'm like, Chrissy must be intimidating the entire gym.
And to compliment that is I've seen my mom unfortunately become
Yeah.
very frail. She, lives on the standard American diet and
Mm.
she's 85 now.
Oh, wow.
And she unfortunately has become incredibly weak. She
Oh,
focuses a lot on the sugars now and
yeah.
eating everything sugary, lots of dairy. I mean, I will tell
Oof.
you, even for me, when I cut out dairy, my inflammation just
Oh my
plummeted.
god.
I
Crazy,
mean,
right?
the congestion went away.
Yeah.
The nasal I
Crazy.
have bad
Oh,
allergies,
yeah.
sinus problems, congestion. But when you get sinus and allergy issues, that's a
Yeah.
bummer. That's
Sinus
super.
infections decrease too? Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Big one.
absolutely. Yeah. So I've seen my mom take a nosedive and
Oh,
she was a heavy smoker for many, many years. And I thought, you know what? I
my
just am
mom
not gonna
too.
do that to myself. Yeah. See,
You
yeah.
and I have the same motivation for our journey. Our both of our moms were smokers. Mine was unhealthy in every way possible.
My
Is
mom's
still
been very
unhealthy. Yeah.
unhealthy. Yeah.
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 Breaking
Yeah.
generational trends is kind of our thing.
Yeah, breaking the trend on so many levels, right?
Yeah.
Like for
Yeah.
plant-based eating. And so, that motivated me to just really focus on food that made me feel good. There is so much available now, like you were
Now
saying,
there is,
Samara.
yeah.
Like when we first started the journey, it was like, what's out there?
Right.
Slim pickings, especially in the dairy arena. And I mean,
I think that's why it was easy for me to do raw too, is because like I didn't know what else to eat other than
That
big
I can
loaded
see that.
salads.
Yeah, back then especially, like, it was
Yeah.
slim I mean, I don't eat that much, like, plant-based cheese, I'm just not into
No,
it anymore. I
no.
will occasionally, like, let myself have some. Let
On a rare
myself
occasion. I
rare
know.
occasion and I don't wanna
It's
say let myself because that sounds very
no.
restrictive and harsh. I will partake in a little bit for fun, maybe around a holiday or something,
Right.
because
But
I
you
think that
feel the difference.
I feel the difference. I do
Right.
feel the difference. I feel much better when I focus on plant-based foods, vegan plant-based protein, which there's
Right.
plenty of. There's so much out there.
Whole food, yeah.
Whole food, I mean, taught me every time I turn around, she's teaching me something else that's now available and a way to get plant-based protein.
You
I'm like,
eat
you
so
gotta be
much protein
kidding.
though on Whole Foods. Like you're one of my clients that eats like the least amount of of processed foods out there. I remember when I used to write your meal plans, I was because you eat more since you have this amazing metabolism now, since you work so hard for all your muscle. And I remember when I used to write your meal plans, I was like, Christy gets to eat a lot. Look at how much protein there is in that. And it's all whole foods. And it would just make me do a happy dance because that's how I
Yeah,
eat too. And
yeah,
yeah, like isn't it incredible how people like don't know how
yeah,
easy it can be to get protein in on a whole food plant-based diet. Like you
right,
can. I know a lot of other vegans who incorporate a lot of processed foods and like protein snacks. If that's what you want to do, do it. Some of them think that they can't get it the whole food way. And I feel that's something
right.
that has set us apart. That's why I have people that have told me like they think I'm a vampire because I don't look my age, you know?
Yeah,
I
that's true.
constantly get asked if I'm in my low to mid 20s, and I'm nearing
Oh, that
40.
must be such a bummer.
You don't look anything like your age either,
Thank
okay?
you.
I know
Thank
you get it. I know you get it in the gym, you
That's
know?
true. People think I'm weird.
But that's
Yes.
the thing is when people ask me, "How do you look so young? How is your skin so clear?" That's where that whole food part comes in.
Yeah.
This is why I'm so passionate, and I think you are too, Christy, of the whole food plant-based, plant-based, not just
Right.
vegan, but the whole
Right.
food, right?
Right.
Talk
Right.
to me about, like, the difference because you did both. Like, I
I
never
did.
was a junk food vegan, like, I never did that
Ah,
part.
good for
Talk to
you.
me about the difference, like, what was the biggest game changers when you started doing more whole food? You talked about your skin, you talked about your sleep, right? Was there anything else, your training, your recovery, anything you wanna dive into on that?
Yeah, I lost some weight. Like,
Yeah,
I'd lost some weight I've been holding on to. I was able to tone more quickly and easily. I'm
there you go.
fortunate. I do have the body that, well, it can go two ways, right? I can lean out more easily, but I also can put weight on very
Yeah,
easily. So I can go both ways. So when I started really focusing on the whole food and the plant-based eating, I felt that I could really lean out more and be toned and develop
right.
muscle more quickly, right?
The muscle.
Ladies, it's about being strong. It's about building the muscle. And I'm not talking about muscle, like a lot of the ladies are concerned about being like too bulky.
Oh, you're
I
not
get
gonna get
that.
bulky naturally.
But you know what? It's a real concern women have out there.
Believe
But
it's still a real concern because you don't accidentally become a bodybuilder overnight.
I
I think
know.
that would be amazing, but you don't accidentally.
Talk about myths. So the myth
Yeah,
was if you try to lift too much,
right.
you would be super big. Now, mind you, some people have bodies that like if you're going to lift super heavy and do short reps, right? Yeah, I mean that if that's your, if you want to be like bulky, great, good.
That's
There's
how
a
I
way and
trained
an
at first.
avenue.
Yeah, I did
That's
powerlifting at first. That's how I trained,
right.
and
So
you do get
smart
a little
enough.
puffy, but, like, that's
But
where the
that's
bodybuilding comes into
powerlifting.
it.
But a lot of ladies just they just you know what? They just want to lift weights and be stronger and lean out. I get it. So
Yes.
there is a process. There's a method.
Yeah,
There's a way to do that, right? So that's a
yeah,
myth, right? And I will
yeah.
even bring back. I'm going to circle back to another myth, right? Because this is all about the myths too.
It's
Protein
supposed to be
levels. You started going there, Samara. You started going there. Protein levels with plant-based food, whole food eating.
right.
I still hear today, how do you
Yeah.
get the protein? How do you
Oh,
get I'm
that
like,
question.
are you kidding me? If you knew I ate 125 grams of protein a day, you'd be floored. I
Yeah.
mean, like, seriously, I eat more protein than carnivores in a day.
Yeah.
I mean,
Most
so
carnivores,
it
especially
is possible.
your height and your age.
Right. As you get older, it's really
Yeah,
important to make sure you have that protein and fiber, right?
right.
There's so much to talk about. I could go on and on. But anyway, that's when I started feeling different. It was really the sleep, it was the toning, it was the muscle building,
The muscle
it was
recovery, yeah.
acne, the muscle recovery, it was the inflammation, the
Yes.
nasal passages and being stuffed up and feeling like
Right.
garbage. I had lots of sinus problems for many, many years. Things started turning around. Things started turning around when it was whole
It's
place
amazing.
food, plant-based eating. Yeah.
Love it. So proud of you. And, like I said, you talked about this going from vegan to whole food plant-based. I talked about it going from just regular to whole food plant-based. Anyone can benefit. My husband, for instance, he's now a whole food vegan like me, but
Mm,
he took 8 years to do it in our relationship. So he did this very slowly. The first thing he cut out was dairy, and all of this was his choice, and I would force it on him, but he saw a huge benefit. He cut out dairy, snoring stopped, sinus issues stopped. He could breathe so much better. Oh, he used to have acne all over his body, back
mm,
acne. It all went away when he cut out dairy. He
mhm.
was mind blown. And so that's why he started like slowly going, okay, the red meat came next, then the white meat. And luckily he already liked plant protein. He didn't mind, including those like tofu and stuff. And he got me more from raw eating into cooked eating. I was already transitioning that way. But I will
Okay.
say my husband is a really great example of this because he's been bodybuilding training, that style of training, since he was 14 years old. And
Mm,
he's a retired Marine, and he was at the
mhm,
top of their athletic
mhm,
division in the Marines.
mhm.
He was working, I mean, his gym schedule was crazy. The amount he challenged himself. He also has a very active job where he gets 20,000
Right,
steps a day and he's
right.
lifting. And so I think what blew his mind the most, because when he moved in with me, he was already eating a bodybuilder diet. It was chicken, rice, veggies, eggs, like whey protein shakes. That was it, right?
Mm, mm,
So when he started eating more plant-based, I mean, obviously the acne going away, the energy levels, that was all great. He was loving that. But I think what blew his mind the most, because he still talks about this to this day, is what you were talking about, the recovery. Because he had been lifting, already for over 15 years. And he was so mind blown about how much fast and efficient his muscles recovered and
yep,
how easily it was for him to train hard again, eating plant based versus not, right? So, like, the
right.
benefits, we could go over the myths, we're gonna have to do a part 2 of this because 'cause we're
Oh,
talking
well,
forever,
yeah,
but
yeah. Right.
but,
I know.
today is talking about our journey into whole food plant-based nutrition, what the benefits we experience, some of the myths we experience. We can do a whole
Yes,
'nother video on all of those too, but, yeah,
so much.
really the whole food plant-based nutrition, ladies, it's where I think the biggest thing for us ladies, especially ladies after 30, 35 years old, after you get into that, aging and, especially going toward perimenopause, menopause, postmenopause, all that, is what
Yep,
Chrissy talked about, the lowering inflammation. That's the biggest one across the board. Like, we could talk about all those finite little benefits like the skin, the hair, the energy, the mental clarity, all of that, workout recovery. But the biggest one I think that has made the biggest life change, like the quality of life change for myself, for Christy, for my clients, has been lowering inflammation. And as you may
right,
well know, if you're over 30, as soon as you hit 30, especially as women, and you get over 30, it is so easy to start holding on to inflammation. Stress response becomes so hyperactive. And that's where anti-inflammatory like lifestyle habits and eating really make the biggest difference in your quality of life. Would you agree,
That's great.
Christy?
I would totally agree. And as you get older, nutrition becomes more and more important.
Oh, exactly.
When you're younger, you can go to the gym and try to, maybe eat still kind of cruddy and get away with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, not as you age. And
Not
and
as you age.
the sooner you start, like Samir started really young. I mean, so much of advantage by doing that. I mean, I wish I
I mean,
had
I wish I would have
known.
started younger if I'm being honest. I know people now who go vegan when they're teens, and I'm like, man,
Yeah,
I
but
wish
you
I
know
did.
what? We didn't have the education
We didn't. No.
back then that is available now. So the younger
Right. Right.
generations are at a more advantage. But you know what?
Absolutely.
At least we did it. At least we did it at the point in time.
We
It's
did.
never too late, ladies.
No, it's
If you're
never too
not
late.
already on the train, you can slowly step on it.
Ease into
We
it.
ease into it. That's what we're here for. But if you're on the train, there's things that you can still learn. We're still
Right.
learning. And
Right.
so, that's what it's all about. And so that's why we wanted to bring you this episode today. We're going to have to do a part two,
Let's do a part
but
two for
yeah,
sure.
we will. We will.
Well, you've been
Awesome.
listening to the Plant Built Wellness podcast with myself, host Samara, and co host Christy. And we talked about whole food plant based nutrition and our intro today into it. We're going to definitely do a part two. We have another great episode coming up next. We're talking about strength training after the age of 30, really focusing on that healthy aging, that wellness, longevity, vitality. Stay tuned and
Yep.
let's get into that next. Yeah.
See you soon. Take care.
Yeah.